Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you a cool technique that I like to call the Mica Frills technique, but it's going to be a bit of a spin on the type that I've shown before. So what you're going to need is a whole bunch of mica clay, and so I've got Primo Gold, Primo Copper, Primo 18 karat gold, Primo Bronze, Primo Silver, Primo Pearl, and Primo 18 karat gold. So those all go together. So that's good. Don't want to be changing my colours at the last minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these out the way. And I'll bring over my tissue blade. And we are actually going to cut strips from it, really thin strips, just like this. And we only need a few from each, so I'll put those aside. And I'll do the same for all the other ones. Okay, so I finished doing that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring over each of our colours. So that's a gold. Now I want to bring over a silver, and I'm just going to lightly touch them together because we're going to need to trim up a bit. Then I'm going to bring over a pearl white, and then maybe an 18 karat gold, and then maybe a copper. Copper's very sticky. Okay. And so basically that's what I'll do in no particular order, so I'm not going to be repeating a pattern or anything like that. I'm just sticking all these pieces together in a fashion that I like. And I'll show you what we're going to do with these as soon as I've laid them all out. Okay, so here it is all trimmed up. So I'll just lift that up off the tile. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a skinner blend. So you want to take this and you want to just gently, being careful because these aren't stuck together, you want to fold it in half. And it's okay if you have a little bit of crossover. You want to try and avoid the crossover, but it will be fine if you have a little bit, because we are trying to make a blend. So each colour doesn't have to stay in their individual lanes, but it's better if you do try to get them. So I stacked the lines a little bit wonky, so whoops, I had to fold that over at a little bit of an awkward angle. So I'm just busy folding it over now so it's all nice and stuck together for us to go pop it through the pasta machine. And I'll bring the pasta machine over, but you do want to stick it all nicely together so it's not going to come apart. Okay, there we go. So I'll bring you over to the pasta machine and show you what we're going to do with that. Okay, so over by the pasta machine, now I'll bring this over. Now just like a skinner blend, you want all the colours touching the bottom of your roller, and you want only one colour touching each side of your pasta machine. And then you'll roll it through on the thickest setting, just like that. And then I'm going to fold it off to the side, but you fold it basically in the direction that you rolled it, so in half. And then you'll roll it through your pasta machine again. And now I've done a tutorial on a proper skinner blend before, and so I'll provide a link to that tutorial so you can see what a proper skinner blend looks like. So I just carry on doing this over and over and over again until I'm happy with my pattern. So I'll just carry on doing that. Okay, so here's what it looks like now that it is out of the pasta machine, and I blended it quite a lot. You could stop a lot earlier if you wanted to, but I wanted to get this nice even blend. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring over the core roller, and I'm going to be using Winter's Frost. And I think that's a little ironic with the colours, you know. But I'm going to be using the core roller now. So what you want to do is you have two methods of rolling this roller. So you can do it by hand or you can use a wooden block. I demonstrate these techniques in my core roller review and I'll provide a link to that. And so you can choose which method you want to use. I'm going to be using the hand roll technique because I find that that's easier for me, but the other technique might work better for you. And also, if you want to know where you can buy them, I got these off of Linda's Art Spot. She sent them in for me, so thank you a lot, Linda. She has a whole bunch of other core rollers on there. She has stamps and all sorts of things, so you'll want to check those out as they're quite cool. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to roll from the long side of the tile. So I'm going to start on this end. I'm just going to really tap this down onto my work surface. I just want to bring it over enough so you can see me start. Okay, just make sure to stick down this end really good, otherwise it kind of peels up on you. And then I'll just start rolling. There we go, so you can see that I've gotten better since my review. And now just remember to keep this stuff stuck down as well. So you can see it's kind of peeling up over here. So just watch this because it can accidentally rip. But I'm doing pretty well over here. There we are, it's stopped lifting now. And you want to try and roll with even pressure. So I'm not rolling it as you would expect because I need to get this as even as possible. But it's looking really nice. And the great thing about this is once we've taken the mica frills off, you can use this as a mica shift, because we have used all metallic clays in here. So I'm trying to get this texture as even and as deep as possible. Now, if your hands are sensitive, you might want to wear gloves because these are quite sharp. But I'm doing okay. There we are. And I might just do this last little bit of it there. Great thing about this texture is if you accidentally happen to lift up your roller or something like that, you can come back and roll and it will pretty much melt into the pattern. So you can see over here that I can hardly see the join over there. So I was standing up to do that because you want to put as much pressure on as possible. But now we are going to start taking the mica frills off. And now you'll want a nice flexible blade for it. And just a quick note, you don't want to be lifting this up yet. Keep it nice and stuck to your tile since you've rolled it, so it'll be pretty well stuck. That's excellent for when you're taking mica frills off. So now what you want to do is you want to hold your blade as close to the middle of your blade. You want to hold your blade as close to the middle of the blade as possible. And gently dip it and try to keep your hands resting on your work surface as much as you can. And then slowly glide over your sheet. And now this takes practice because you don't want to dip in because you want to keep these windows. So you can see over here I dipped in a little too much and I got a little piece over there. That's okay, but you don't want to dip any lower than that. Now I'm going to pop that onto a piece of paper to keep it from sticking, and I'll move on to the next one. You want to go slow and steady. And now this is why you want to try and keep your texture as even as possible, because otherwise you'll get mountains and valleys in here and it will just make the entire slicing process a lot harder. Now you want to keep this blade clean while you're doing this, because if you've got pieces of clay on the sharp edge over here, it can drag and it can cause your mica frill to crumple up and it won't look very good. So just have a cloth off to the side where you just wipe it after each slice. Now you also want to be doing this carefully because we want to get the mica shift afterwards. So there's another piece, looks really good. Now, quick thing, I'll talk more about this later on probably, but when you take it off, so it's sitting on the piece of clay like that, but then if you flip it, you'll see that it's got a much better look on the back. So this is the part that I like to use. Okay, so I'd continue doing this until I have taken off all the Mica Frills I can. If you end up taking off all the Mica Frills and you're not happy with all of them and you need more, just fold your Skinner blend over like you would again, roll it through the pasta machine a few times until you get a nice smooth blend. You don't want any wrinkles or crinkles in it because then you won't get the nice mica shift, so you want a nice smooth blend. So I won't lift it up, but you want it nice and smooth like you would any mica shift, and then you can imprint it with the core roller again and then just continue shaving. Okay, so I finished taking out all the shavings that I want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten out the resulting piece of clay, because we've used mica clays, and so it means that we will have a mica shift underneath. Now you of course can just bundle up this Skinner blend into so you can fold it over on itself like this a few times so that it forms a nice thick rectangle. Pop it in a compatible plastic bag. You need to check that the clay is compatible with the plastic, otherwise it melts it. But you can pop it into a compatible plastic bag and then you can use it again for future projects. But then again, I kind of like this mica shift, and so I'm going to just flatten it out like this and then put it away for whenever I want to use it, because I think this would make some really nice earrings and even a really nice pendant, because you can see that it just looks really nice. Just flattening out the texture. So I guess the Core Tool Winter's Frost wasn't exactly the most appropriate texture to use with this, because, well, this is the exact opposite colours of winter, but then again it also kind of has a stained glass effect to it, so that's completely flat and it looks really nice. I love the detail in it, so I'll probably be using that in some future tutorial later on. But for now we're going to be using the Mica Frills that we had, which are usually the throwaway bits. Now the technique that I'm showing you today with the Mica Frills you can use with just plain shavings that you get from your just plain mica shift. So if it's just plain gold you can use the exact same technique, but I thought I'd amp it up a bit today. So what I've got here is some Primo black, and I'm not sure if I said already, but I am working with all Primo, all of those colours that I used were Primo. And this piece of Primo black was rolled through on the third thinnest setting on my pasta machine, and this is what I'm going to be using. So now I'm going to bring over some of my best Mica Frills, and now the best ones are the ones that have completely clear windows. So if you have clay in those areas then it's not the best one, so use those ones last. So we gently want to lay it out on top of the clay, and I'm actually just going to bring over my knife and use it, don't want to use it that way around, use it to gently lift up the clay and pat it down, because you want it to be lying flat. So if it's folded over you want to try and fix that if you can. Don't stress too much about it, because this is supposed to be fun, so that one don't lie flat completely. But you do want them to be mostly lying flat. Okay, so that's the first piece. Then I'll bring over the next one. These are very fiddly, and this is why I like to keep them on a piece of paper, because it means that they don't stick, and so it's easier to get hold of them, if you know what I mean. There we go. I'm going to just pat it down this side because I'm quite happy with it. This one's got a little bit of a hijacker over here, I think. Just peel that up. No, that's actually part of the pattern. Okay. There we go. Pat that down. So already it's looking quite interesting. Once we flatten this out, it'll look even better. I'm going to bring over another piece. And I just basically want to fill up these areas. So these pieces are really nice. An example of a piece that wouldn't be so good for this is this one over here. So you can see that we've got blocks in those windows. So you still got the mica shift on the back, which is great, but you're not going to be able to see the black through it, so it's not the best. Now, I'm just using plain black. You can use any sort of technique you want, so you could maybe do some mixed media on the back. Maybe you want to do a skinner blend on the back. That actually would look quite nice. I might try that. I'll post pictures on my Facebook page if I ever do that. There we are. Just bringing over all the pieces that I have, and I'm using some of my smaller ones now. It's okay if it overlaps a little bit. I don't want any gaps. And now I'm picking it up with my blade, which makes it a lot easier. And now we're almost out of space, which is good. And then we can flatten it out and finish up. So it's a really simple and yet very effective technique, I think. Okay, so here's the last one we're going to use. Let me just pick that up. There we go, and it's okay if it overlaps. There we go. So now just make sure that you've tapped it all down before you bring over your acrylic roller or your brayer or whatever you're using. There we go. And then we'll bring over my acrylic roller and I'll roll one way and then I'll roll the next. Because I want this to be flat. So it's got a really cool foresty effect to it, I think. It's not going to keep the pristine pattern, so this is not the best technique to use with a geometric pattern because you're not going to keep that geometric pattern. It will be almost impossible to do that. Now I think that's flat, so I'm using a more natural pattern. Now, you don't have to use a core tool roller. I thought that core tool would look really nice. And there's a whole bunch of patterns that you can get from core tools that will work great with this. The reason it's really nice is because the pattern is so deep that it means that shaving it is really easy. And you can get those off of Linda's Art Spot, as I said before. I'll provide a link. But if you have maybe a different stamp, you can always try this technique out with a different stamp. Most stamps will work for this, it's just that the core tools can be a bit easier. Okay, so that's completely flat. The nice thing is, just want to point this out quickly, you are going to have two sides of your mica frills. So the first side, which is the side that you shaved from, which was sitting on top of the sheet, is going to be a little bit dull. Then on the other side, if you flip, this is the freshly cut side, so this is the underneath of the sheet. So I won't bring it over, but this side looks better. So this is the side that actually has a mica shift. So that side, first that side. That side looks better once flattened. So that's just something that is a personal preference. It doesn't mean that you have to always use that side by far. You can use whichever side your heart desires. There's no real rules or regulations here. But I just personally think that side looks better. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trimming away the excess bits, and I'm just going to gently lift that up. Now this is a big sheet, so there we go. So there's the back side, there's the front side. So it looks really nice. I might just stretch it a little bit. Make sure that it's nice and flat in the meantime. And this has kind of two areas to it. So it's got this area where you don't have any overlaps and it's just one mica frill that you flattened out, like over here. But then over here it's also got multiple mica frills, so you can see part of the mica frills through the other windows. So you've got multiple areas to choose from, and I think that both areas look really cool. So that's basically it for this tutorial. I might do a project at some time using this because I'm really happy with how it looks. And these two go together quite nicely. This one, of course, once you bake it, the mica shift will actually come out a lot more. and then once you've sanded and buffed it, it will look absolutely fantastic. So I can't do that for you now because it takes a while, but the raw clay doesn't look as good as the completely finished clay. So if you were to take that and bake it, the mica shift would look slightly better, but if you were to sand and buff it, it would look really nice. And then if you were to add resin to it, it'd look even better because the resin just brings out those micas. So I definitely think this technique, any technique that contains mica particles, is great for the resin. So anyway, went off with the track there. Wanted to say I enjoyed showing you this tutorial. I hope that you had fun watching it and that you found it helpful. And if you did, please do let me know, as that is always helpful to me. And please do check the links below, as there will be links to the tutorials I've mentioned in this video, like my mica shift. There'll also be a link to where you can buy the core tools, or the core rollers. I keep saying core tools for some reason. I'll provide a link to where you can buy that. And I will also have a link to my website down there, Jessama Tutorials, where I have articles and places you can send in pictures. I have videos, and actually a whole bunch of the YouTube videos are on there before they are launched onto YouTube every single week. So I have early access to all of my YouTube videos on there. So be sure to check that out, as you can get these videos up to 2 weeks early. And as always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.